This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The following will contain strong language, adult themes, and your girl, Mara, for the final episode. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. On with the show!
Hi, were you saying it's Nell?
Hi guys, what's goody? It's Tammy.
Hey, it's your girl.
I was like, are we gonna move on?
I really tried to keep my composure.
I'm so sorry. It's the way
Janelle looked at me so quickly, she's like, this is not you.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Hi, were you saying it's Nell?
Hi guys, what's goody? It's Tammy.
Hey, it's your girl, Mara, and this is the Not Too Much podcast. If you know,
You
know.
This is not to say that you're allowed to be low energy.
But that was too low. No, because the Tammy, I was trying to pick it up off the floor.
I thought something caught in your throat. That's why
It was a mix of two.
Hey, hey, hey. We're back.
For context,
Why can't I say
We've
hey?
been through this season with this hey.
Listen
It's been
to
a point
episode
of
3, I believe.
controversy.
Why can't I say hey?
You can say
I
hey.
don't think it was that. It's when we tried to say that Nell has never said hey.
Hey,
Episode
hey.
3.
What did you say?
Episode 3 will provide context to this
Yeah.
conversation, but hit it off, Mara.
Okay, so I just wanted to check in quickly because it's the end of the season.
Why did we look at each other like that?
Because
That was actually harmless.
Why are people so
For
scared?
context, when Mara said, "Oh, I just want to check in," then the eyes and neck whipped
So
back.
I was like, wait, what's happening? It's the end of the season, guys. How do we feel? Oh,
So
well,
sorry.
I feel nice.
how? Anything else to add to that?
I feel nice.
How
too.
do you feel?
Yeah, how do you feel?
I feel very proud
Oh.
and grateful to be here to
Aw.
continue discussing very wayward / introspective / kind of outlandish conversations with my best friends.
Oh. Right.
That was
Kind of
so
makes
cute.
us look kind of shabby.
Anyway,
But we didn't know.
Like, if you...
I took it very positively. Thank you, Mara.
you're welcome.
So what? Now I'm...
Sorry. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
You're your own.
Because the way this episode may go, because it's the last of the season, it just might be a little bit scatty. So, you know.
You need to TM these things when you're saying them, you know.
Scatty.
Please bear with us. But I am grateful because today I feel great, but I've had a very frustrating week this week.
Mhm.
Hear that.
And
Real.
one aspect of my frustration this week has to do with social media. So I'm going to just lay it out a little bit, guys, and then we're just going to... I had to, unfortunately, check myself and place some boundaries with my interaction with social media this week. You know, it was other things going on, but I said I'm way too invested into people's lives.
Okay.
One of my biggest gripes, and it is, well, you can tell me if it's outlandish. I'm going to say that it is that when I know of, you know, a very like notorious partnership / couple on a social media, and then all of a sudden they just like disappear, and then they, you know, announce that, you know, they split ways and they're broken up and please respect our privacy. I'm always like, well, it weren't very private in the first place. However, I accept that boundaries need to be in place. But my question is, because I think this is something that is debated a lot on social media, and some of our faves, you know, are very, very strict about it. Does having a platform on any form of social media, because this doesn't just, I don't think it just relates to just like a visual social media, like a TikTok or YouTube, any form of social media, does having a platform / influence on whatever app it is then allow people to kind of have access to you in a certain way? And does what somebody posts dictate the level of access someone feels they are entitled to? That's a very convoluted
My
question.
initial thoughts.
Sorry.
I'll just chuck it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the only time that I think individuals, communities, followers have the right to someone's life experiences, details and stuff is if that influencer, that public figure has sold access to them.
Okay.
And those individuals have actually paid money for it.
I was gonna say.
So if you're saying, I'm going on my Patreon and I'm gonna give a story time about why me and my man broke up, and somebody's now paid the $5.99 a month on Patreon, so now they've physically purchased access to that, and you don't give it to them. Unfortunately, you did sell.
Yeah.
You literally sold the right to access that information.
Right.
But if that's not the case, honestly, it's our decisions as consumers, and I say consumers of anything within the social media space, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Substack, if you choose to buy into something, you might not get your return.
Yeah.
And you might have to just do some reflection on why it's so triggering for you not to get that return. You can buy into anything, and that's not necessarily a problem, but you might have to be okay with your return on investment may not reap what you particularly want.
I was gonna say that I do agree with that opinion. I was gonna say that I think simply being public and being a public figure, as in just like existing in a public space, isn't enough justification for my entitlement towards you or whatever you've got going on. I can feel how I want to feel.
For sure.
That's the thing. People are gonna come away from this and still feel, no, I'm entitled to this, and that's how they feel. But in terms of it in practice, I don't feel that way. However, I do think in, relation to the point that you made, when you're not just being simply a public figure, you're selling yourself, and then there's a form of exchange, then hey, listen, that is actually just part of the territory that you've also signed into.
Yeah.
Not that you can't be upset or frustrated with the consequences of that, because I see these things happen initially, and then later on, one of both parties starts to express frustration towards the fact that, okay, for the public figure, oh, in this context, I was happy with, you guys feeling that entitlement or kind of investing into that side of my life, but in a different context later on, I'm not comfortable with that. I have my boundaries and my kind of division of what I'm comfortable with or not comfortable with. So I don't think it's a absolute agreement to access or entitlement to that, dependent on context. But I don't think, going back to my earlier statement, just simply being a public figure guarantees makes entitlement from the consumer fair.
It's more of like the selling of said. That sounds.
But okay. Our lives are products now.
Yeah.
So we just have to be okay.
Yeah, I got to say that sounds crazy for me to say, but
some people's income is their life and their lifestyle. That's how they make money. So their lifestyle is a product, and therefore their experiences are products too. They are selling something, whether it's palatable or not. The right to it, the right suggests that
a bit of ownership. I don't feel
without it you are disadvantaged. That's my thing.
That's interesting.
Having rights, like, okay, I know this is kind of crazy to compare, but like human rights, we have those rights because our lives would be severely disadvantaged because of them, right? So to suggest that you have the right, the authority to have access to someone else's life, it would suggest that in some way, not knowing information or not having that access is disadvantaging you in some way, which is why I'm like, the only scenario that I can think of right now, I'm sure there are others, is you physically paying for something.
Yeah.
And because you've given up that that money,
Yeah.
you're now physically at a disadvantage
Advantage.
from it. You can be interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested in a lot of people.
Yeah, same.
You can be interested. You can feel frustrated privately about the fact that you don't know certain things.
Emphasis on privately.
Yeah.
Privately. Talk to your group chat, not the comment section.
Yeah. Go back to episode 1 for that. Your support network.
But the right to something, when people are like, but you said
like a mob.
Yeah. Is this going to affect your livelihood like that?
It's interesting with like the changing. Sorry.
No, go on.
For context, I was talking more like raised her hands because she was ready to make a point. Sorry, I'll be brief.
No, don't be.
Thank you. I was going to say that interestingly, with like the change in language, I feel like the perspective widens, because I think it's different to frame it as a right versus an entitlement.
Okay.
Because if we were just purely talking about entitlement, to me, that connotates ownership.
Yeah.
That connotes, ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when we're talking about a right, I lean into the perspective that you just had. So to me, if someone's like, oh no, I'm entitled to this, it doesn't feel, in my perspective, like they are disadvantaged from not having it. They're just kind of stating their ownership over something. But I did want to say, without the monetary aspect, like if that was kind of moving away from that scenario, in terms of relationships, because it plays out differently in like that sphere, when you have two public figures that are in a relationship, and they don't, the form of exchange isn't necessarily with you as a consumer directly. It's like, okay, as a couple, we do brand deals, we do photo shoots, we make content so that you can engage with it. Does the access still apply there, like the right for access?
Well, okay, from the, like, for example, from the brand,
or from
from the consumer.
From
sorry,
the consumer.
yeah. Not for the brand, because that's a different. That's the direct exchange.
Okay, in this specific scenario, there's a big influencer couple that
did I miss something?
Split, that divorced.
Divorce.
Like,
I think I know who you're
recently,
talking about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm so scared. It's not my life. But
I was like, it's alright, girl.
Sorry,
but like, it was very much a brand of the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But were they really selling? Like, what were they selling though? Like, I don't think anyone, apart from emotionally buying into something, which also nobody can dictate how, if somebody emotionally buys into somebody or a brand or whatever. Though I'm frustrated by it because I wanted the tea. Why would, I don't think that is the same context as it being a monetary type of thing.
I think it is.
Do you think?
And okay, let me get an analogy for you, man. Okay. Okay. I think a lot of creators, even us, right? We go in with the intent of our product, whether it's a video, whether it's an article, whether it's a podcast, going in with the intent of a noble cause. For example, ours is to create community, have meaningful discussions, and genuinely add beneficial stuff to our listeners' lives, right? However, what it also is, and what I think a lot of people are afraid to touch, is its entertainment. Okay? People are buying in to be entertained. Are you ready to be entertained? Right? Yeah. So these couples in this instance, they are entertaining. And it's like when your favorite show gets cancelled by the network. you see how people act. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, like, why would you cancel it? People in the comment section of Netflix, bring back this show. People get entitled. Why have you taken away my show that I've invested time and money in? And I like all the characters. I'm entertained. And you've taken away my entertainment. Same way with Game of Thrones. When people hated the ending of Game of Thrones, what happened? I don't like the fact that you broke up. My entertainment did not end the way I wanted it to. I feel entitled to an explanation. I think when we take away people's noble intentions to creating the platforms that they have, and those intentions are valid, they are sacred. When we strip back and look at what most of social media is, which is entertainment of some form, whether it is, you know, gratifying or not, that's when people start, that entitlement starts showing, because it's the same, people act the same way as they do when they go see a TV show or they go watch a movie. They expect to be entertained and they want entertainment to continue.
Because I was going to say,
I don't think it's right though. I want to make that clear.
I understand why people feel that way, because I'm people.
Yeah. We all are.
I am people. And I had to check myself. I am people, but I had to step back and be like, okay, actually, let me just let go. It's annoying, but
and this isn't a
situation. You can do that. Not many people can.
I was gonna say, and we're kind of, maybe the example I'm about to make just now still leans into the same discussion, but like, so far from what I've understood, we've been discussing it as, you know, there's an end to something or a change in something, and you kind of want answers for why that change has occurred. And different examples have floated this way. When I think also about this kind of access to public figures conversation and entitlement, etc., I also think about it in the lens of when there's like public controversy and like, okay, holding public figures accountable in that space. And in my head, sometimes I hear this phrase floated about where it's like, okay, because like, public figure means public accountability or something to that effect. Like,
sorry, I know it's like,
and so when I'm
like
also
public
thinking,
apology and stuff like that. Okay,
and so I'm thinking about sometimes entitlement beyond the idea of like taking something from someone, but actually giving something to someone, like having the right to also insert yourself into their life, or like insert commentary or critique into their space. And I was like, do we then, on that flip side, if you catch what I'm saying, because I'm
we're following,
is that, are we still of a similar opinion here in terms of, it's fair to feel how you want to feel, but as far as kind of bridging the parasocial into the social, you're not entitled to give that person accountability, but are you also, because they've made themselves so public? I feel like my brain is now unfolding, but
accountability is a very,
because it's a different conversation, but it feels like it leans still into this overarching idea about access and then how we act based on that access.
For the most part, okay, the way I would think about it is, when it comes to like a controversy, something's happened with a public figure, and are we entitled to accountability? We're not. We're not entitled to accountability. That person can do whatever they want to do. Morally is that's a different question. Like, morally, should that person take accountability? And we can all as individuals make our own personal judgments about how we want to engage with a group of people, a person, a public figure. Do you know what I mean? Personally. But like, in terms of, are we entitled to that accountability? No. Unless you are part of a group, or you are the person that person has harmed. Then it's not parasocial, it is personal. Because if a public figure has said a homophobic remark, right? That takes it from the parasocial to your words have influence.
Yeah.
Okay, that could have a knock-on effect on a bill that is outwardly homophobic, and now that community is feeling the physical effects of your harmful comments. Then it's like they can request and they are entitled to accountability. But in terms of things that don't have that impact, for the communities that aren't, they can support the group people who need accountability, but you're not entitled to it. That's just my off the cuff, unfleshed out.
Yeah, that's fair. And some people don't care.
Yeah,
and that's how that directly relates.
All that talk.
No, because sometimes it directly relates to how you consume things. If you're consuming someone and it's not based on a morality type of interaction, then you do not give a flying fuck.
True,
and that's that.
Well,
but yeah,
I guess that's it. Hey guys, I'm back for the final promo break of the season. I know it's sad, but you can still keep up with your girls if you head over to Instagram and follow us at the NTM Pod. Or, alternatively, you can head over to TikTok and follow us there at the NTM Podcast. You can also catch our episodes on any platform that you listen to your podcast on. So, this doesn't have to be the end of the road. See ya! Lights.
Camera.
Action.
Period. We're back. Okay, so speaking of keeping things private.
What?
Or not. Okay. Because we just spoke about, should we have access to people's lives if they put it on the internet, which, privacy is part of that. And what I want to, zoom in on, focus on today, in this topic too, is the fact that I am going to agree and declare that sometimes things should be kept private and offline and not in social discourse. And I'm going to make it very personal to everyone in this room right now.
Okay.
I got up on my seat.
Sorry.
No, I'm ready.
Because I'm going to say, especially when it comes to some conversations of the diaspora.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
let's get into it.
I want you guys, if you haven't already, I can't remember what season it was. I think it was season 6. But we have a specific episode where we speak about the diaspora and going back to our homelands. And I think this is a conversation that can follow up on the topics that we discussed in that episode, because we did refer to the fact that some of the discourse that happens around that topic is too complex to be received in an online format, and it gets very convoluted and it just gets out of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can dive deeper into why some of the think pieces and critiques, especially when it relates to race and culture and identity, should be kept inside the house. I want to start with, first of all, do you agree with that sentiment in the first place? Because let's start there, and then we can build out.
I think. But I feel like before you go online with a think piece, a discussion, because this is what I do personally, right? I think about whether I can handle following up on it, and whether I have enough information to clarify as much as I physically can, because you're not Superwoman, you're not Superman, not super them. You can't go around answering every single piece of the thread of this of dialogue and conversation. You can't do that. But do you have the bandwidth to actually clarify your statements, to keep your part of the conversation centered? If you can't, I would suggest having that convo with your friends, with your community, and building up that dialogue offline.
Yeah.
Because a lot of great dialogue online needs to be taken offline, and we need to organize, and we need to get some things in action politically.
I was going to refer to that, to be fair.
But that's just my...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would be in agreement with that. I think throughout many points of the podcast, we, especially when talking about things that occur in the online sphere, we have frequently said what needs to be practiced is a little bit more time away speaking with your microspace communities, having dialogue with family, friends, or whoever is in your life for a bit of feedback before rushing to or only considering using the internet as a space to like project the commentary. And this, honestly, I have to make sure that I'm being clear that given the nature of social media, it will differ case to case. I feel like there is some content that is just made for that platform that doesn't require, and that not can't speak, not talking about more of the deeper commentary topics, just kind of more of the light-hearted entertainment value content that I think is just supposed to go out there and just, you know, enjoy yourself and express. But the things that not only in talking about it lead you to be in a position where you are now a voice in the conversation, and by being a voice in the conversation, depending on what you're talking about, you could add further harm to a group that you're speaking on.
Because I think one thing we have to remember is that when you go online, you cannot control who is watching and who is commenting.
Exactly.
Okay, when no matter what community you're in,
No, it doesn't matter.
it's like when Sharon was talking about natural hair.
Hey.
Why are black men speaking?
Shut up.
And do you see? And and that's the conversation that I felt needed to go online.
Yeah.
I think we needed to have that dialogue. But what I'm trying to say is, you cannot control who's gonna start yapping on that, and sometimes they take attention away from the initial discourse at hand.
Yes.
So that's where my concern comes from.
Yeah.
Because we have outdoor people, yo.
Yeah.
Even the fact that I said, yo, whoa, globalization.
Fortunate, didn't it?
In it. After.
Okay. Speak on it, girl.
But in this instance, I feel like you have to keep in mind how much harm you have to weigh how much harm, and nobody ever knows how much harm versus good is going to come out of you speaking. Like, if you know a black person is in the public eye and you don't agree with something they're doing, but they're currently getting dogpiled, and what they're doing is being used as a way to be horrifically racist, maybe now's the time to just give a pimp,
you know,
until the time comes where you can have that discussion and that dialogue without that person getting death threats and being called racial slurs.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think as well, and we've spoken about this, I think in episode 1, I think to go into a space, online or offline, and think that the words that you have to share are of value enough to either add to or change the conversation, it reflects back to ego, in my opinion. And so when people are having these conversations, I urge them to think about beyond themselves, because that's the thing. When, you know, even if you're on the right side of the conversation, you too also think that your opinion is valid enough to steer that aspect of the conversation. And so, yeah, I just wanted to add that, but also agree with what you said in terms of being mindful that the internet, whilst we talk about things that are in the niche corner of our internet, it's in the niche corner of a lot of people's internet. And again, the anonymity element of social media means that it can just be co-opted by any and anyone.
And niche,
any and everyone, sorry. But
no, and I think that's a good point, because I think niche niche things become very not niche on the
Yeah.
internet. Every day, I see a video where someone has made something, it's blown up,
Yeah.
and they've made a follow-up video. Oh my gosh, you guys, I didn't know it was gonna get this much traction, because sometimes you don't. And I think that there is a good intention sometimes behind people bringing things to social media, because I think if you've grown up in a community or a culture where it is very the saying of, like, you know, what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, and everyone has kind of, not everyone, but some people have reckoned with that as an toxic, you know, a toxic, what's the word, behavior to, you know, perpetuate. I think sometimes the aim with going on social media is to kind of, it's a fighting against that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna put it here, and, you know, whoever sees it sees it.
Yeah.
But that's the issue.
Question.
Question?
Tell me what you think about me.
Because in what you were saying, something just came to mind. I'm aware, and it's hard to say this, but like, it's not actually hard, but so you know when the intrusive thoughts coming into play, I'm aware that I think I find it easy to also say, oh, instead of just rushing to social media, because I hate when I see content and then in the comment section someone says, oh, you were early, because I was like, some of you just rushed to get here to speak, you could have been a bit late. But in saying, oh yeah, you should talk to XYZ people about things before going to social media, if you are supposed to go to social media or you think that that's necessary, or just talking in your group chat and etc., I realize that is actually quite a privilege, because not
everyone has community.
Frustratingly, well, not everybody has community or networks or people to kind of springboard off or talk with. And so what is the message for those that do not have the community as such to discuss things with when they see commentary live?
My issue is not commenting on things publicly.
Okay.
My thing is, don't be reckless.
Okay.
With commenting on things publicly. And this can apply in many situations. It's like when you don't be reckless when you're talking. We all make mistakes.
Yeah. Don't
get me wrong. Like, I can hold my hand up and say there have been times where I've recklessly said something. I don't really comment. But if I was to comment, I probably would be commenting on reckless stuff. That's probably why I don't comment. However,
the GC's popping.
Hey, the voice notes I send you guys.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that community, you can build that community online. That's why people have mutuals. Yeah. Like, we have that. However, I just think before you say something, if you can, weigh up the harm versus the good. And then you make that personal decision. That decision is your decision. And nobody can chat on that.
Yeah.
But I just implore people to use that framework, because conversations are meant to be had. It's about timing,
tact.
And if what you're going to say is going to harm, especially when I see you're actually targeting a specific person,
exactly,
and they're actually getting they're in a lot of heat right now. Sometimes it's deserved, but when it gets to the point of slurs and death threats, guys,
that's also my issue, because
let's pace it.
How many times have we talked about this, where I think we talked about this in like a TV show format, where we said Black women are not yet ready to be cast as the villain in a show, because if they are to do something and it's considered quote unquote villainous, the accountability that is to follow is never focused on the action itself. And you can insert whichever marginalized group would reflect the same statement that I'm making. It then now escalates into something that is bigoted or discriminatory, and it again perpetuates more harm. And so that's also like my concern, because when I see these things going on, especially when I'm seeing people being dogpiled, and it's typically a marginalized person or person from a marginalized background, I'm like, you guys have a bit of just empathy, a little bit. And empathy doesn't mean erasing what that person may have done.
And that's that.
You can hold multiple truths, guys. Multiple truths. Like, don't multiple truths at once. Like, please, we
have some discernment.
Yes, it doesn't completely revise or erase what that person has done, but you can use, like you said, keyword. Thank you, Mara. Your discernment.
Mara just put up a fist up
to look upon that situation and be like, I don't need to add to that. I don't need to add to that.
There been many a times.
Things are already going on. You don't need to add to that.
It's actually,
and what you're saying will not be received because there's so much incoming.
And at some point, I'm like, do you actually care about what you're saying is to be received anyway?
No, you
just want us to chat. You wanted to chat, and that's why. And then I see something, the think pieces in the case. I'm like, okay, but you just wanted to chat. So whatever you're saying now is a bit null and void.
And that's okay to want to chat. We chat.
We chat all the time. Look at us. We got a podcast.
Season 7. However, we have out of mic conversations. Hey. We say this is just a chat.
Yeah.
When we feel, and obviously it's subjective, when we feel we have something important to say, then we'll come on the mat.
Exactly.
But when we know it may do a little harm,
you know. Yeah.
Get off that mic.
Exactly.
And even knowing when the conversation itself, it's still a valid conversation to be had. But the timing, because you mentioned timing before, the time you have to assess and be like, is this going to be embraced appropriately, or is this going to be flipped into now another dumpster fire?
Yeah.
And to the point I mentioned earlier, and that you picked up on, Mara, some of these conversations are great starters on social. We need to take it offline.
Exactly.
We need to start speaking to people about it, understanding opinions, understanding which way the willow blows. Because it's all good and well when your algorithm is feeding you the same opinions about a topic over and over and over and over again. But when you're out there speaking with people, understanding people, hearing their perspectives, you can hear people ramble and stutter and they go, oh, actually, and I thought about this. And then you start developing connections, people.
That's it. Put the boots on the ground, people.
Let's talk.
Oh.
I just think in this current situation,
I think, I'm going to take that back.
But that's fine.
Yeah. What I meant is go outside, touch grass, and, actually infiltrate your community. Because one thing I will say is that though social media and online discourse can give you a certain level of access and exposure, the impact can dissipate very quickly because it just stretches so far and wide. You can do so much stepping outside your house.
And I hate listening to such a valid discussion move so far from the point.
So far. Usain bolting out.
It really gets me down.
You'd be pissing me off.
Oh,
sorry.
There's a little twang in that.
But yeah, just be mindful.
Be mindful.
Mindful? I don't know why we all repeated that.
Well. I've been now.
I've been Tammy.
And I've been Mara. And you've been listening to the Not Too Much podcast. If you didn't know before, you best know now.
I'm so happy we got that because I was worried that none of us would clock the difference.
The best note. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't forget.
And that's a wrap. Come on. Thank you.
Season 7.
Spirit.